How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Z Garage. And if you caught last week's video, we painted the fenders, we painted the side skirts, and we painted the hood on the car. And we have a few more things to go still. We have the front and rear bumper, we have the rear hatch, just needs a little bit in some areas, and then there's some rusty kind of spots we just want to cover. And then we need to do the over fenders. I have them right here. These guys look pretty cool. These are the Oshida over fenders. They're based off of the 50th anniversary fenders. And then a few other little bits of odds and ends. So what we're gonna go ahead and do right now is I need to go ahead and fit up the side skirts because I don't really know how those over fenders in the back really sit. The front I think is pretty self-explanatory, but I think the back of it, let me pick this up again. You can see there's this little mounting tab right here, but I don't really know if this is going to work on my car, so I want to go ahead, fit this up, see how it's going to fit, see if we need to do any modification to this in terms of chopping this off or whatever before we go ahead and paint it, just so that we don't have to worry about, you know, accidentally scratching the paint or anything while we're working later. So that's going to be the first thing, is just to put up one of these onto the car and then put the over fender on it and see if it needs any trimming. And then we'll go ahead and clean up the front bumper. There were a few places where there were some small voids between like the gel outer coat and the actual fiberglass undercoat. So that gel outer coat kind of cracked and fell off. So we'll go ahead and fill just a few of those little pinholes. It's still a really great quality bumper, guys. If you are looking for a nice, good quality bumper, I still highly recommend it. There's just a few little pieces of touch up we need to go ahead and do. And that's pretty much it. We'll go ahead and continue painting this whole week, and hopefully we'll make some really good progress, and next week maybe we can put some black on the car because it's gonna look really good as white and black. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into it, guys. I'll take you along with me and we'll see how it goes. All right, guys, so we got the rear over fender here mounted up. I just have a vice clamp on the inside there, just holding it to the rear or the inner fender well. And you can see the rear part here looks really good. I think I might have misspoken earlier. This is not where that little tab is. This just wraps around, works really well. I didn't put this piping all the way around yet, so yeah, it's just kind of where it is for the moment. And up here at the front is where the, I would say the issue is. So the side skirt, see if I can just hold it up a little bit. So that's like where it normally sit, you know, when it's fully mounted. This is just kind of snug here. And it also does have a gasket that goes through here. But you can see regardless, we're still going to have a little bit of an overlap issue here because this is a stock 2+2 1986 side skirt and not a 50th anniversary side skirt. So a little bit of a difference here. So I am actually not quite sure what I want to do. If I trim the bottom part of this off, it's going to sit flush, you know, because it's out a little bit right now, but it'll sit flush once I do that. The real question is, do I like the look where it just doesn't have anything there? And I'm actually not quite sure because it just doesn't really look finished. It looks like it doesn't actually fit this body kit in a way. So I am going to spend a little bit of time thinking about this. And I'll probably hold off on painting these for now. We'll move on to other stuff so we keep moving forward. This isn't like, you know, the most important part of this body kit. While it does look good, I do like the look. It's not like the thing that is going to make or break this car. So we'll go ahead and put this on the shelf for now, and we'll come back to it later. And we'll go ahead and move on to the front rear bumper, get those guys patched up, filled in, and ready to be painted tomorrow. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and we'll pick up after there. All right, guys, so as you might be able to see, we have the front and rear bumper out. Let me go ahead and show you kind of the areas on the front bumper I was talking about. Let's see if I can get up in here for you. So there was a little void right there. You can see I've chipped it away, so it's the fiberglass underneath. Same thing right here. There are a few spots on the interior of these ducts. I think there's one over here. I can see the bubble and it's cracked, but it hasn't come off yet. So we're just gonna go ahead and sand the whole thing and make sure none of this like gray top coat comes off. And if there is any place like that, we're gonna go ahead and sand that area really well because we want the paint we put down on here to have a nice good surface to actually grab onto. We don't want this flaking off in the future. So we're gonna go ahead and fix up those areas with just a tiny little bit of body filler. Should be fine. And then here is the rear bumper. And I completely forgot that there is a license plate light area here in the center. So you can see it's got this built-in diffuser at the bottom, and the paint scheme for this is the diffuser. I want it to go ahead and paint it black, and then the rest of it we want to go ahead and do white. And I already have a place for my license plate because this is an 86. It goes up between the tail lights. So I'm actually going to go ahead and we're going to patch this panel, make it completely flush through here. It's probably not going to look 100% as good as I would like it to, but we're gonna go ahead and do it anyway because I think that is the best way to go ahead and get this to look on an 86. I don't really know of any better way to go ahead and make this look good on a car that doesn't have a license plate right here. Like, obviously we could fill in these holes, but even like putting an insert right here that I painted, was something I was considering. It's just not going to look the way that I want it to. So I'm gonna go ahead and break out my 3D scanner. We're gonna go ahead and take a scan of this area right here, and I'm gonna go ahead and model an insert that fits in here. We'll go ahead and print it, and then I'll go ahead and fiberglass over all of these seams, make everything match. This little lip here is probably gonna be one of the hardest things to go ahead and make sure it runs all the way across. This right here, even though there's kind of like a line all around it, this is all very smooth, so that shouldn't be too hard. And we're just going to go ahead and fill in all of the seams and make sure the whole panel is quite flat all the way across the top. So this is going to be a little bit of work. It's definitely going to delay us because I forgot about it. But we're going to go ahead and do that right now. Probably finish all that up tomorrow. And then keep working on the rest of this, probably painting next weekend most likely, because it still is kind of a full day event. But that's going to give us plenty of time to do other stuff as well, like preparing all of the other little bits that we need to paint. So I'm going to go ahead and 3D scan this right now so we can go ahead and throw it on the printer and get it going. And then once that's done, we'll go ahead and start body filling all of these pieces and making sure they look really, really good. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into that, guys, and you will see how it turns out. All right, guys, well, you can see I went ahead and actually scuffed this area up here to go ahead and make it a little less reflective for the 3D scanner. And as I was doing this, I was talking to one of my friends, and they suggested using spray foam. Now, if you don't know, you can get this expandable spray foam. It comes in a can like this. You spray it, and then it expands over time, and then it turns into a nice solid foam. And this is actually a really great application for this. What you'll see is a lot of people will just take a car, and they'll just spray tons and tons and tons of spray foam to make an arch, and they'll shape it and everything to make an over fender. And that's not necessarily a bad idea, but the foam can trap in moisture, and that can actually go ahead and rust out your car, which is not great. But because this is just a fiberglass and plastic bumper, we're not going to have any issues with the moisture being trapped behind it. So what we're going to go ahead and do is tape off these holes from the backside just so the foam doesn't go through it. And then I'm just going to spray foam everywhere in here. And then once it goes ahead and hardens up, we'll go ahead and sand it down, cut it down with a blade, and get it to the same profile as all of this. And then we're still going to go ahead and go over it with a layer of fiberglass body filler on top of that to go ahead and connect everything and make it nice and smooth. Just because the spray foam does still have air pockets in it, it's not a perfect solution. We're not going to go ahead and paint directly over that. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. We're going to go ahead and sand this down further. So I think I used a 320 grit on this before just to scuff it up. I'm going to go ahead and move over to, I think, my 120. And we're going to get all the way down through this kind of gel coat on the outside here because we want the fiberglass later to go ahead and have really great adhesion to the actual bumper itself. So I'm going to go around the edges here, and then probably with the spray foam, we'll probably cut kind of little divots in so that the fiberglass isn't just, holding on to the very top edge. It actually goes down and has some really good grab around it. That way it won't crack or come off over time. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We're going to sand this down really well, tape up these areas, and then we'll put the foam and start contouring it. So I will update you guys here in a bit, let you know how it's going, and hopefully this turns out really, really well. I think it's a cheap, easy way. This was $10, and it was instantaneous. The 3D printed insert was going to be, I think, like 40 hours of printing or something, so definitely not quite as quick. So I'm looking forward to this. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, guys, so as you can see, I've got the foam on here now, and everything was looking really, really good, honestly. The way that this foam works is that it didn't quite expand as much as I was thinking it would, because this is, I think, for more kind of like cracks and stuff next to windows and doors in your house, instead of the stuff that's like crazy insulation and expands tons. So I did 3 passes. I'll put pictures of them up on the screen right now, so you can see the first pass, the second pass, and the third pass. And I went at opposite angles, just, kind of help the structure a little bit. And then, you can see what we ended up here with is just a really big blob that is definitely higher than the surfaces that we need it to be, which is perfect because we're going to go ahead and cut this down and form it into the shape we need. The can says that it's going to be fully cured in 4 hours, so I will set a timer for that. It does say to use it above 40% relative humidity, which is interesting. I live in a desert, so I don't think I've ever hit 40% here. So what I went ahead and did is wiped it all down with a wet rag. I'm gonna have this wet rag here kind of being, you know, damp in its area. I'll probably go ahead and grab another rag that I have over there and just set it over here as well, just so that as these evaporate, it can kind of, you know, I'm assuming this cures with water, which is why it's asking for 40%. So we'll go ahead and set those here. Hopefully that just helps it cure a little bit better. And then of course the heater, we need to be between 60 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll keep all this going for the next 4 hours and just make sure this is nice and fully cured. I think the can said it should tack up within like half an hour or lose its tack. It's tacky right now and it should be tack free in about half an hour, but we'll just wait for the full hour before we start going ahead and cutting this off and working on it. So this is looking really good. Let's go ahead and see how it turns out in 4 hours. All right, guys, so it's actually been like 8 hours, and as you can see, the foam has actually increased in size even from when we finished. I guess I could have assumed that would have happened, but I really didn't think it would. I thought it was going to be pretty similar to the same size. So we probably actually could have gotten away with 1 or 2 layers instead of the 3, but that's okay. We have more to trim off, more to work with here. It's not really too big of a deal. What I went ahead and did is took one of these knives here and I started cutting around it, and you can actually see like I've, you know, cut a decent amount of it over here and over here. I'm gonna go ahead and trim up this side now. I went ahead and did that side already. But on my knife, it's pretty gooey. The inside is still pretty sticky. So I'm hoping that when I cut this up, we go ahead and leave it overnight, and I'm hoping the rest of it cures. I'll go ahead and re-wet these rags because they're dry already. Hopefully the moisture will go ahead and cure it, and then we can put on the body filler tomorrow. If not, we might have to go ahead and either remove it and put on a thinner layer or do something different. We'll go ahead and see at that point. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off for now, trim it up to size, and then we'll see how it looks tomorrow morning. Hopefully it is a lot less gooey. Alright guys, so I just cut this open, and as you can see, the interior is not cured at all. We maybe got, you know, roughly an inch of cure, not even an inch of cure all along here. So it is not looking too great. We would not really be able to fill over a lot of this with body filler. This is just tons and tons of gaps still. So I'm going to go ahead and wet these rags again. We'll go ahead and hopefully this part cures overnight, and then we might have to go ahead tomorrow morning, do another layer to fill in some of this. Just 1 layer instead of the 3 layers like before. But maybe this is the reason why it said to do this with greater than 40% humidity to do a full cure on it, because what we have here is definitely not going to work. I'll go ahead and, you know, super gooey, but as you can see, you know, this stuff is foam still. You know, it's not really cured. So yeah, we're gonna hopefully this cures overnight. Kind of wipe this stuff off here, huh? And maybe tomorrow we'll be able to work with it. Maybe this isn't the stuff that people normally use for body kits. Maybe it is the other kind of expanding foam. This one I got from Harbor Freight. It's this Max Fill 3X expanding large foam. So we'll go ahead and see. You can see there's like huge air pocket gaps, you know, like that's not going to work for what we need. So yeah, we'll go ahead and pick this up tomorrow and see how it looks, because this as it sits is not going to work for us. So I'll let you guys know tomorrow morning how things are looking and what the game plan is going to be then. Alright guys, so it is the next morning and this has firmed up a lot. You can see that this is all nice and, you know, firm now. It's all fully cured. Even the interior here, even though it's still a little flexible, actually right there might not be fully cured now that I'm looking at it. So I'm going to go ahead and re-wet these. They're still a little bit damp, but I think it could go further. So my recommendation, if you're doing this, definitely only do 1 layer. I think that it was a mistake putting so much on here. It wasn't able to fully cure. Also, this outer stuff is much thicker than what's on the inside here. And this is going to be much more ideal than what this is here, just because this is going to have a lot more, or a lot less, you know, support behind this. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is start trimming all this up. Basically, we're gonna go ahead and, you know, try to follow these body lines as best we can, and then go a little bit below that so that we can go ahead and put the fiberglass body fill on top of this. The fiberglass body fill is what we're gonna go ahead and use to smooth this area out and keep it flat and structural, but we're going to go ahead and use the foam here just to go ahead and fill it up so we're not using as much fiberglass body filler. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this up. I might go ahead and try to see if I can cure this a little bit longer because I just woke up, so I'll go ahead and give this a bit more time before I go ahead and put body filler on it. But overall, I think there's definitely a better way to do this. At least the way that I did it was not ideal. So take that into account if you guys are going to be doing something like this at home. And if you're using this filler, it might be different than a different activated filler because this needs humidity to cure, I'm pretty sure. And clearly we have some issues here where we didn't get enough humidity into here to fully cure it. So I'm going to go ahead and let this sit for a little bit longer, and then I'll start carving it up, and hopefully we end up with a decent result. So I'll let you guys know where we get. All right, guys, so it might be a little hard to see on camera, but everything here has been contoured pretty nicely. We are below the surface in every single area that I want to be. This area has a decent amount of foam behind it, so when we do go ahead and put the fiberglass on here, there's at least something to kind of give it the structure, and then the fiberglass itself is going to go ahead and actually form this you know, kind of ridge that goes across here. Under here, we do have kind of a gap right here, so I might go ahead and fill that in with, you know, I just have chunks of foam sitting over there. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of the denser foam and just kind of put it in here just to give it a little bit more something to grab onto. It's not gonna be stuck to the actual bumper though, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm gonna go ahead and mix up the first batch because it's probably gonna take 2 or 3 batches of fiberglass to get this down. I'm using the Bondo Hair. This is long strand reinforced fiberglass filler. I've used this before on this car to fill in like those little quarter panels where the holes were. Any kind of like large, denser holes, this stuff works really well because it is fiberglass. It's stronger and more, I guess, less prone to cracking than something like just regular Bondo would be. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up. I think it only has like a 5 or 6 minute working time. So usually you need, you know, for something this big, multiple different passes on it. So I'm gonna go ahead, fill in this top part. We'll figure out what to do with this bottom part here. The stuff does kind of glob on. It is literally like hair, and it is super, super sticky. So you can kind of lay it down, but getting these kind of arches here, I might go ahead and use a glove to try to form it a little bit. And then it's just gonna be kind of a lot of sanding once we actually get it on here to go ahead and actually get the shape and structure. I might go ahead and use regular Bondo at the very end to get any final forming done, as long as this gives us some nice, good, stable structure underneath. But we'll see how that goes. I'm not, you know, dedicated to that at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up and start doing some coats on the top here, and we'll see how it goes. All right, guys, so I think I forgot to shoot a video of when we went ahead and just put the fiberglass on, but as you can see, this is where we're at now. We went ahead and sanded everything down and started forming this kind of ridge at the bottom. This rotary tool was extremely, extremely helpful in kind of cutting down all these really high areas. You know, all of this, you kind of just got to break the top of it and you're good. You know, use a sanding block or something and you're good to go. But there were a couple areas here where I built up too much, and sanding through this just takes a really long time. So using a rotary tool with one of these, like, you know, sandpaper bits on the end, really, really helpful. This tool is like $20 at Harbor Freight. So it's very similar to a Dremel. Dremels are usually pretty expensive. This is like literally $20. Comes with a couple bits. So I really recommend if you guys are doing anything like this, where you need to shape, you know, body fill, definitely get one of these. They actually work really, really well. So everything's looking pretty good. This bottom line here is, I'm not gonna say it's straight, but I think it's pretty good to where this line is, you know, none of this is proud of that line all the way across. So what we're gonna go ahead and do now is use regular body fill to fill over the rest of this. Any of these spots that aren't sanded are actually, you know, indentations, they're divots. And because we don't wanna go ahead and, you know, obviously be above the bumper because that'll look weird. But if we're below, we can go ahead and fill that in and then sand it smooth. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix up some regular body fill now. This fiberglass body fill is very thick. It likes to be put on in, you know, a couple millimeters at a time at the minimum because, you know, the way that the glass fibers are within it. So we're gonna go ahead and use regular body fill now, and you can definitely get it into all these little crevices a lot better. So it should be, you know, easy to go ahead and fill everything, and then we'll do our best to shape this area. That way we minimize the amount of sanding later. But you know, that shouldn't be too bad either way. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix up the body fill. We're gonna go ahead and fill this over, and hopefully in the next shot we are very, very close to a finalized smoothed over bumper. It should look pretty good. One of the things to note is that this fin here, if you see these two fins there, this one's much longer than this one was because of this cutout. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue this face and this face up in this area here so that it's smooth all the way across. And then we'll continue this face up into it because it usually cuts down a little bit. So we'll continue this face into it. So it won't quite look exactly like this, but it will look properly done like it was meant to be there. So all this will be fine. I think it's going to look great. So I'm going to go ahead and work on this, and we'll pick up after that. All right, guys, you can see here we have a finished bumper, and it is not the most perfect thing in the world. These lines here aren't the straightest, but you know, this is all hand done, so I'm actually pretty happy with it. I don't think it's gonna be too visible because it is on the lower part of the bumper, especially these bottom lines here that I'm not too worried about. These guys didn't quite get filled up the way that I kind of thought they would, just because that's not kind of the slope that they are, but that's okay. I think it's gonna be fine. Especially with all of this being black, I don't think it's going to be too easy to see any of those weird issues. But everything else here looks really, really good. So that's got some high build primer on it. We'll give it one more sand before we paint the actual thing. Here are the headlight lids. There's one there, one over here. Those are both primed with high build primer. We'll go ahead and sand those, fill any tiny little divots in them with the glazing putty, that guy right there. So those guys will be good. We're going to go ahead and give this guy one more scuff. Any of the little areas that I found with issues, I put some of the body fill in, but we need to go ahead and sand those down once more. I think on terms of the car, we need to go ahead and grab the side mirrors. I think I have one of them, yep, right there, and then one of them's in the other room. We'll grab the gas cap lid, and then I think the hatch. And that is all we need to do in order to get this car ready for the rest of the white paint. So if you guys don't remember, these guys are going white with some sections of black, these two bumpers, and then the rest of the parts I just mentioned are going to go white. So this is the only piece that's really going to need any little bit more of, you know, work. This front edge here is down to bare metal, so we're going to go ahead and sand that down to more metal because it's a little rusty, and then we'll go ahead and get a nice etch primer on it so that it's nice and, you know, bonded and securely primed so that it is sealed. And then we'll go ahead and take off the wing, take off any interior trims, get ready for that paint as well. So I'm gonna keep working on that, guys. I still have some time left today, but I think I am just gonna run out of time to film. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave you guys here for this video. We made tons. Alright guys, so it turns out that I actually did not edit and release that video in time, so I'm just gonna go ahead and show you guys how the painting came out. So it's roughly a week later, and I went ahead and painted the front bumper, the rear bumper, the hatch, and then a couple other little pieces here. So we have almost all of the white paint done. What I need to go ahead and do actually still is the lip for the front bumper. I did not have space to do that, so I'll go ahead and actually, I'm trying to do it today, so we'll go ahead and see how that turns out. But here's the front bumper. You can see I masked off this inner area here, where we're gonna go ahead and paint it black. I waited about half an hour after the final gloss coat to go ahead and pull the tape, and it gave us a really nice clean paint line here. If you wait too long, the paint dries pretty well, and so you're going to end up, you know, cracking the actual paint itself. So if you're doing this, make sure to give it time to dry, you know, what it recommends usually for a coat. And then you can go ahead and pull off the tape line all the way around. Same thing here with the rear bumper, the underside here. I went ahead and pulled the tape off. I didn't try to make this line super perfect because we can go ahead and just be a little more precise with the black. It'll fill it in. But it looks really, really good. And you can kind of see a little bit of waviness in the bumper right there where we filled it in. But overall, it still looks really, really good. And I'm really, really happy with how it came out. We went ahead and did the hatch as well as the mirrors. And I love this little Nissan right there. It just looks so cool. You can see there's a few imperfections in, you know, the paint on these. But, you know, we'll wet sand it, and then it'll probably just buff out looking pretty good. And then you've got the fuel door right there. So these are all great. The way that I painted these actually is that I 3D printed these little standoffs and then hot glued them to the hatch glass. Because this mirror, it doesn't stand up on its own, and it needs to be painted on a lot of different sides. So I went ahead and painted it like this, and that worked really well. Both of these came out looking really good. So, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and try to paint the lip for this bumper now today, so we'll go ahead and see how that turns out. I might show it in the next video, we'll see. But after that lip is done, then we have to go ahead and paint black on here. black on the bumper here, black on the back of the car there, and then around all the chrome trim. So we still have a little bit of painting to do, but we are really, really close to getting this car back together and looking really, really good. So I'm very excited, guys. Thank you for watching, and as always, if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. I'll see what I can do, and then hopefully I'll see you guys next time. And we're almost done with painting, if not done with painting, by the next episode. So I'll see you guys then.